Good morning. You're watching Cheche, the program where opinion counts, live on Citizen TV and Hot 96 FM. I'm your host, Udoak Amimo. Now, the claim to fame of our guest today is being one of the youngest political party leaders in the country at the moment. The National Alliance, or TNA, promises youthfulness and professionalism. It's also fielding the Deputy Prime Minister, Uhuru Kenyatta, as its presidential candidate. It also stunned us all with an elaborate and no expenses spared launch. Well, also with me in the studio are Cheche resident panelist Mutegi Njau from Citizen TV and political analyst David Makali. Good morning and welcome to the program. Now, Johnson Sakaja, you are 27 years old. Yes. You are the chairman of the National Alliance political party. What is your party offering Kenyans?
TNA, as you've well said, is a party that is more or less new in the political circles, or it has been re-engineered. Our party is offering transformation. Our agenda is transformation of our society, politically, economically, and socially. And it is anchored on what we believe in. We believe, first of all, that all Kenyans deserve to have equal opportunities, and we want to provide those opportunities. Opportunities to get employment, to provide to get jobs, that every Kenyan who needs a job is able to get a job, that we can have an environment where business can thrive, and where all Kenyans, no matter where they come from, no matter where they are, can feel like they're Kenyans and they have an opportunity to become who they need to be. Secondly, we believe in togetherness of our people, that we can go beyond the tribal tensions that have been there and see ourselves as Kenyans, that we can bring all communities together, because we have seen a beautiful reality in our country, that the Kalenjin dreams in much the same way as the Luo does, that the Kikuyu's hopes are not opposed to that of the Luya, and that we have more forces that hold us together and bring us together as a country than those that have ever threatened to tear us apart. And in addition to that, we believe in security. We believe that Kenyans must be secured by the government, that is the first mandate of a government, to secure its people from physical threats, from hunger. We need food security, and that is the first mandate of a government. So what we are presenting to Kenyans is a platform through which we can have a government that listens to them, that will work with them, and that puts their interests first.
But how do you explain the fact that...
Let's first of all get to know.
We'll come to that in a minute, but how do you explain the fact that not many Kenyans had heard about the TNA before the Deputy Prime Minister chose it to carry out his presidential campaign? Well,
the number of Kenyans who knew TNA in its earlier incarnation, because it was a National Alliance Party of Kenya, I think if you look at your history well, you realize that is one of the parties that even Mwai Kibaki was thinking about joining in 2002 before he vied for the presidency. However, they ended up joining NAC. And as is the practice in Kenya, politics or other parties are driven by the personalities also that are within the party. So some of us had not gotten into it yet, and neither had the Deputy Prime Minister. Now, him being one of the most likely candidates to become the president of this republic next year, has been able to raise the profile of the party.
Okay, so we come to Mutegi's question about who you are at 27.
Wait, at 27, how did you get into politics? Who are you anyway? When did you go to school? What's your profession?
Okay, that's a good question. Usually it's very hard to describe yourself. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm a young Kenyan who believes in the potential of this country. I'm 27 years old, as has been said. I studied actuarial science at the University of Nairobi. I'm also studying political economics now, because I realize that is where my interest actually lies. By profession, I run a firm called Arthur Johnson Consultants, which provides financial services to businesses and to entrepreneurs.
How did you get into politics?
I've been in politics, well, for a while. Maybe because I'm young, a while is not really a while, it's relative. Yeah. But I think for 7 years now, I was involved in the 2005 campaign, although from far. I was supporting the no side in the 2005 referendum campaign. In 2007, I joined a campaign for one of the presidential candidates then, though I entered at a very junior level, Mwai Kibaki's campaign. I joined the campaign as a driver, that is 5 years ago. Then I slowly went up the ranks. I became a personal assistant to one of the directors in the campaign, and joined the youth side of it, the Vijana na Kibaki. And I think from there I've been in politics all along. I've also been involved technically in constitution making process. That was in 2010. I was, I think, 24 then. I was one of the experts, though I never liked it when I was called an expert because I don't consider myself that. But there was a scarcity of people with technical knowledge on how to provide a system, how to mix mathematics and politics, and provide a system through which we can have equitable representation and fair representation. And I was instrumental in that process, where now, for once, we can say that we have a system that guards this country from gerrymandering that was going on in the creation of constituencies in this country. I was instrumental in crafting Article 89 of the Constitution, which provides a population quota and the parameters through which constituencies are created in the country.
That's great. Yeah. That's great.
Mutegi, you seem skeptical of a young person being in politics.
No, I'm not skeptical. I think he has done a great job doing because of his youth and his, actuarial science is not one of those things that every student gets to study. You must be very qualified to enter that faculty. So I think the guy has done a good job.
Okay, yeah. David?
Transform himself from that to politics.
I think we must commend Johnson because there's been a buzz in town about the youth getting into politics.
Yes.
And you're on this show essentially for one reason because of your youthfulness and then the fact that you had a political party. But the questions will arise obviously about your leadership of that party. Are you actually leading the party? Or you are, this whole thing of tokenism, where people take youth and put them at the head of a political or any other organization, basically to achieve that image that they're sensitive to youth affairs, but in fact they're calling the shots and you're just puppets.
The youth of this country are more intelligent than that. They will not vote for a party just because it has a young chairman, or just because its officials are young. But what we have done as young people who have said, look, we care about this country and we believe that we can make a change. We believe that politics should not be a career for retirement, that somebody retires into politics. But we want people to be able to give their best years into politics. So we are in TNA, we are fully in charge, and we believe very strongly that the young people of this country are the trustees of its posterity.
When you say you're fully in charge, what exactly does in charge mean? Because one, I have not seen you in political rallies. Uhuru and the politicians have been carrying out the rallies, have been doing it the old style. I've not seen you addressing any rallies. I don't know what you guys are doing in the party as leaders or as youth, therefore.
Let me explain. One, I've been in all those rallies. Probably I'm not yet newsworthy to be covered. But if you look at your raw footage, you'll see me addressing those rallies, talking about this message and this statement of faith that we're passing out to Kenyans. Right. So we're involved in that. And also our political party has organs that make decisions. And in those organs, we have a national oversight board, of which I chair, that makes the decisions with regard to the programs that the party is running. We have branches, and in fact we are going to conduct fresh elections for our branches at the end of August. And we're also encouraging young people to actually get involved in politics.
Let me interfere there. I know one, Cyrus Jirongo.
Yes.
He was here in this show the other day. He was in a group called YK92. He was very vocal. He was just as strong as you are. Having vision. The youth.
Yes.
Youth for Kanu 92. After Moi was elected, they were dumped. They were humiliated. How sure are you that you are not going to have the same fate?
You know, young people in this country, first of all,
even those who are young,
we are the majority.
Even then the youth was the majority.
We are more connected than then.
I'm not sure about that.
We are more connected on social media. We are more connected on Facebook and Twitter. 86% of this country below 35. We cannot be used. And what you're saying is that young people in this country are no longer a phenomenon to be dealt with, but a force to be reckoned with. And anybody who is serious about politics needs to understand that. So I have no fears that are going to be dumped because we're the ones who are,
Okay, let's be optimistic that the youth are going to take charge this time around. Let me just ask, in TNA,
yes,
because it's being fronted as a youth party, youthful party, what is the level of participation or membership of the youth actually within TNA as we speak right now?
Okay, before I answer that, let me first say that TNA is not just a party for the youth. It's a party for all Kenyans, of all ages. It is just driven by youthful energy. Decisively driven by youthful energy from the top leadership. And not only are we focusing a lot on young people, we're also focusing on women. because for a long time women have been relegated to the back burners of politics and they have not been able to be involved. And you've said that since we're bringing a fresh take, because we're not just bringing our youthfulness or our professionalism, but we're bringing a fresh take to this politics, because we think that it is time to have a clean break from the past, that we can learn from what happened before, but we can take this country to another, to a different place. So young people, first of all, at the national level, are the majority in terms of our leadership. TNA has no youth wing. All political parties, as you know, have youth wings. But you've said these youth wings have been used time and time again as, when you go out and you're with your children, and you have a bouncing castle where you tell the children, go play there, whereas we have serious grown-up talk. Young people have been relegated to those youth wings to go and play while the real decisions are being made at different organs. So we're saying we have instead a senior citizens wing in our party, where the
Council of Elders.
A Council of Elders, where the minority, because you don't have affirmative action for the majority, where the minority are engaged. So the superficial engagement of young people has stopped.
Yeah, but Johnson, this still looks superficial because, one, the party hasn't held elections. So you guys are not holding those positions because you are elected by the majority of the membership. You were actually placed there to reflect youthfulness or the vision of a party. Do you think, one, that you'll hold when elections are called? Two, isn't that, again, discriminatory? It is the same artificial staff setup that we're talking about. You set people up there and then you relegate the old so that they don't look like they're dominant, and you put them in the Elders Council. The same way you would put the youth in the Youth League, now you're creating an Elders Council.
No. First of all, Makali, we have not been placed. We got into the party through legal ways. We took over the party.
But no elections yet, right? That we must agree.
Our constitution, not in elections, but our constitution provides ways through which, if officials who've been there resign, then the National Delegates Conference elects new leaders into the party, and that's how we got in. And we are confident, I'm confident, that come next year, towards the end of it, when I vie for this position, because I'll have performed. In fact, if you've seen, TNA has been a party of fasts. There's so many things we've done that other political parties have not done. So since our members will be able to see that we're leading or we're pioneering and setting trends in this country, then I am confident I'll be elected again.
But if you're such a young party, how are you funding yourselves? How did you fund that grand launch that we saw at the Kenyatta International Conference Center?
Our party is primarily funded by its members. Even before we changed our name.
Are you funded or bankrolled by a certain individual?
You know, politics has changed. We have a Political Parties Act. We have funding regulations. Even one individual cannot fund a party beyond 5% of his expenditure. So it's not even possible for one individual to fund the party that much. But we had an overwhelming flow of goodwill. Even when we launched our party, a lot of the things that were there were actually donated by our members. And you know the launch looks big. I've seen some numbers being thrown around in the media.
But it was
300 million. It was nothing close to that.
It was only 100 million.
It was nowhere close to that.
How much?
Let me tell you one thing. Innovation is not expensive. Creativity is not expensive. Okay. People are saying we are live streaming. We are in all countries. How much does it cost to live stream? It costs nothing, so long as you have an internet connection.
Right.
We were covered live by media houses, including this one, for free. So the biggest cost was probably the dome, which was even donated. Equipment could probably be the cost. So it was nowhere near that. But what you saw at that day was a spectacular demonstration of what happens when you combine youthful creativity. Because the team that actually organized that launch, majority of them are below the age of 35. The team that organized everything, choreographed everything.
You have to tell the country how much you spent, since you're disputing the figures. So how much did you spend on the launch? You're the chairman, of the party.
As the chairman, my treasurer probably has the exact figures, but we did not spend anything close to what has been bandied around. Not even close to that 50 million you're talking about. I can assure you.
Let's go back to the youth and their role in politics. I was in a meeting where Uhuru was supposed to address a place called Chuka one Friday, a few weeks ago. And I found people waiting for him there. They waited up to about 5 o'clock. And there were very many young people waiting. Many of them were very drunk. They were blowing horns and then being paid to do that by the local establishment. Now, that kind of shows to me that there hasn't been any change at all. It is not about leadership. It's about being sponsored to make noise.
Well,
nothing has changed.
I'm not aware of that particular incident.
But you must have been there.
Change is a process. Change doesn't happen in a day. It is a process. You must first state what you believe in and try and convince people that this is actually the way to go. So that particular incident, which I'm not aware of, probably happened.
But that happens all over the place.
No. there is no rally organized by TNA where that happens. By TNA, under which I am the leader, that has not happened. I assure you, Mutegi.
If we look at the rollout plan of the TNA, after the launch, there was a couple of events, and then things seem to have gone a bit quiet.
Yes.
What is the grand plan? How are you going forward?
Well, we intend to have a number of activities that we've been rolling out. I'm sure you've seen us all over the country. Just the other day we were in Turkana, we were in Lamu before, we were in Kisii and Nyamira, and the response has been overwhelming. One of the things that we want to do is to take the I Believe experience, what we saw at KCC, down to the ground, where we can listen to Kenyans, voice out their aspirations, because we want to change the politics is done. Instead of a political party coming and telling you this is your problem and this is your solution, we're listening to these people. So we have a number of forums that we've lined up all over the country. We have leadership development programs, because we believe that even as a party, we need to present to Kenyans credible leaders, leaders who will pass the test, leaders who are visionary, competent, and passionate. So we're having leadership development programs for all our aspirants, so that we can train them on the basics of what they need to know as leaders, what the requirements of the Political Parties Act and the Elections Act are, and such other instruments of the law, and just to make sure that we actually can bring about that new breed of leadership.
I'm not sure about the freshness of the leadership you're talking about. Let's take Nairobi, for instance, where the experience was performed. And look at the leadership of Nairobi. We've had Waititu, we've had Sonko battling for leadership of the party in Nairobi. Is this a representation of the kind of leadership we expect from TNA?
Let me not cast any aspersions on their character or on those individuals.
But they're not young people.
No. These are people who are already in the public domain.
But it's not a question of casting aspersions. We know the record. We know what they do. If a leader is going to throw stones.
Let me tell you, TNA has no MP. We have no MP elected on a TNA ticket.
No, Johnson, that can't pass.
Everybody has the freedom to associate. It is enshrined in the Bill of Rights, Article 38. So we cannot prevent anybody from participating in our activities.
But you cannot allow people who are not members of a party to participate in your party on platform to speak at your event and on the event, and then say they're not members. That can't pass.
No, but when they're speaking in those events, are they saying anything that is wrong?
I don't come to speak at those rallies.
They're saying as supporters. In fact, I'd invite you to come speak. But whoever is speaking in those parties says that they believe in what we are doing. Okay. And they want to actually get a ticket in TNA.
There's a point we need to exhaust after the break, which was the choice of leadership. But we have to take a break now. You're watching Cheche, the program where opinion counts, live on Citizen TV and Hot 96 FM. Our guest today is Johnson Sakaja, the chairman of the National Alliance, the political party that is fronting Uhuru Kenyatta, the deputy president, as its presidential flag bearer. When we come back, more on that presidential bid. The SMS number is 2442 and the Twitter handle is Cheche_TV. Welcome back to Cheche, live on Citizen TV and Hot 96 FM. I'm your host, Udwak Amimo, along with panelists Mutegi Njau and David Makali. Our guest this morning is Johnson Sakaja, the chairman of TNA. And there's a question for you from a viewer who asks, how do you explain choosing a presidential aspirant who has a case to deal with at the International Criminal Court? Don't you think that denies your party integrity?
Well, I don't think it denies our party integrity, because the first thing that we subscribe to as a party are the laws of this country. We subscribe to the Constitution, which we have to follow. Our Constitution gives anybody the right to associate with our party. Secondly, our Constitution gives even the presidential aspirant, Uhuru Kenyatta, the right to vie, even if convicted, leave alone now that there's no trial. The trial has not yet started. And even once it starts, he has a right to vie, and nothing in the Constitution stops him unless he's exhausted all avenues of appeal. That is under Article 99(2). Article 38 gives him the right to participate in the political party. So there is no way we can stop him. And if Kenyans believe that he is the right man to run this country, then all we have to do is to give our members the right to vote for him.
Imagine the president, Uhuru Kenyatta is elected president.
Yeah.
And then after the trials, he's convicted and jailed. What kind of situation do we find ourselves?
I think in the highly unlikely event that happens, the Constitution also has provided avenues through which another president can be sworn in.
So what you're saying, Johnson...
But I don't think we need to preempt that happening.
You're saying that you're actually picking the sections of the Constitution that are in his favor expressly so, but there are those that are implying that, him running is against the integrity chapter. What is your comment about that specifically? What do you interpret integrity to comprise of in this context?
You know when people talk about two things. One, first of all, the chapter 6 on integrity. I have never had any individual talking about a specific clause in that chapter that prevents them from running. Secondly, when people talk about the spirit of the Constitution, that the spirit does not allow. You wonder this spirit that talks to some people and doesn't talk to other people. There is no way the spirit of the Constitution can contradict the letter of the Constitution. The letter of the Constitution clearly and explicitly gives him the right to vie for the election.
Going back to the question that we were on before the break, the sort of politicians who are associating with TNA, and a couple of names were mentioned, Gideon Sonko, Fred Waititu, and there's a question from a viewer here who asks, what sort of politicians are you associating with? This is the same old thing, but also that these people are better known than the party or yourself.
The party, as of today, is around, since we rebranded it, around 60 days old. So granted, many politicians are known more than the political party.
For the wrong reasons.
For the wrong reasons, because here they're called irresponsible leaders.
For the wrong or right reason. We can call them irresponsible leaders. Their constituents may not think so. That is why we have democracy in this country, because people elected them and people believe in them. But what we are going to do as a party, for all leaders and not for any individuals, once we know who our candidates are, we are setting up our code of conduct that says that anybody vying on our ticket must subscribe to certain values and principles. And if they do not do it, then they will not get a ticket under TNA, because we must actually have some, decorum of leadership, some values of leadership. But we are not able to do that until we have actually nominated these candidates, until we have actually presented them as our members and as our candidates.
But no, that is okay. That's all okay, Johnson. But is there anything in the character or in the conduct of these politicians that, as you can see messages coming in, that has raised concern within your party? Or are you saying you're approving of this conduct so far, and that is supposed to be the image of TNA?
No, we're not approving of that conduct, but we believe that even questions about their conduct can be very subjective.
Right.
Unless these people go through a process that gives them a fair hearing, for example, on even that conduct that you're talking about, it will be prejudicial for me to say that this person is acting out of line. Unless they go through a disciplinary measures or structures in the party after a complaint has been registered. So I'd ask these members who are complaining about them to actually complain officially to the party,
which
because
is to say
all of this has to be done within certain procedures.
Okay, just so that we move forward. So, which is to say that the party has found nothing wrong with their conduct.
The party has not investigated their conduct.
It has approved of it.
It has not approved, nor has it condoned it.
Okay, so going forward, I mean, you've held rallies all over the country, you say. How is the party being received, and where is it having, sort of good following or good reception from what you've done?
The party is being received very well across the country. 2 weeks ago, I had a meeting in Nyamira before the politicians came for the rally. The meeting was at a place called Sironga Guest Resort, which is an ODM stronghold, or rather has been formerly an ODM stronghold in Nyamira. I was actually being hosted by the local ODM councillor. The young people of this country have believed in the promise that we're giving them, because they're saying if this party can give us an opportunity even to vie, because we have said that as a party, one, we will not have direct nominations, and two, we will not have a system in our party that disadvantages those who may not have millions of shillings in their accounts, but have millions of ideas in their minds. And that message itself is giving us a lot of impetus and a lot of strength as we go around the country. So the response has been overwhelmingly good, and we'd like to thank the Kenyans for giving us that kind of a reception.
Let's pick up on the expenses of politics. How are you making it accessible to young people who have no money?
I think 2 weeks ago, we launched, which was also a first from all political parties, we launched something called a Young Aspirants Fund. This Young Aspirants Fund that no other party has done is a fund that will be set aside for any young person between the ages of 18 and 35 who wants to vie for any position, any elective position, and can show the need that yes, they have followership, yes, they have leadership skills, but they cannot afford, what it takes to campaign.
How will you make that assessment?
The logistics. Pardon?
How will you make that assessment?
One, it's easy to make the assessment based on age. Then they'll have to come and prove the need. And once we have the trustees, because we'll soon be unveiling the trustees to that fund, they will put down details of how they'll vet those leaders who are aspiring. Because there are so many young people in this country who have leadership skills, who are committed to this country, who are passionate, but they shy away from politics.
Because of the expense. How are you capitalizing? How are you capitalizing this fund?
How are we capitalizing it?
Yeah.
One of the first things that we're going to do is a fundraiser, where we'll call all our members and all our well-wishers and sell them the dream of these young people who want to vie for these positions. And whatever they're able to raise, whatever we get in form of donations, we'll be able to divide amongst these candidates, either on a prorated basis, either based on need. And we have no challenge in coming up with formulas. But we'll find a way that is equitable, that all these young people can get away. And on top of the financial assistance that we'll give these young aspirants, we'll also give them technical assistance. We'll teach them on how to mobilize, how to fundraise, how to communicate with the media.
When will that start? Because we're saying will. When the elections are just March next year.
The elections are around 230 days from now. We are 60 days old. So we are doing it within the next 2 months. We'll have done that. We made the announcement 2 weeks ago. Whatever needs to happen to set up the trustees and the fund within the laws that we have is being looked at, and soon we'll come back to you with that.
You say that you're 60 days old, but Ben from Kitale is complaining that he checked his IEBC registration and found himself surprisingly put down as belonging to TNA. How would you explain that?
I've had, I think now 7 cases of that having happened. And I think there could be probably some errors within either the IBC or whichever way, because we did not fraudulently register any members into our party. Many other parties have had more than 60, 100 cases of people, being registered fraudulently. So there could be a mistake, either the ID number, the name or something. And what we've told these people is that if you've been registered fraudulently, that you can send a complaint to the registrar and also to us through info@tna.co.ke, and we will promptly deregister you from the party. Then we will come back to you and explain to you why we believe you need to be in the party.
Right. This from Mr. Ogeto Vasumbi. Where is democracy in TNA if the presidential aspirant is already known? Must TNA eclipse the operations of other parties in central Kenya?
Okay, those are 2 questions which are good. Number 1, we have not yet conducted our nominations for presidential
So it's not a foregone conclusion that the Deputy Prime Minister
Yes,
will
it is just that now at this point, and I'm saying, Mutegi laughing, at this point he's the only Kenyan, no, honestly, he's the only Kenyan who has offered himself. Other parties, and I don't think it is right for me to mention them, have it in their constitutions that the party leader is automatic candidate. We do not have that. We are going to have a nomination process. And he himself has said it many, many times that he is ready and he is seeking the TNA ticket. It is not an automatic ticket for anyone. But he looks confident that he'll get the nomination, and you look confident as well, the way you're laughing, that he'll get it. But anybody who believes, any young person in this country, any old person, any woman who believes that they can be the best presidential candidate for TNA is welcome to come on board.
That Johnson is only half the truth, as you know. Uhuru is the candidate of TNA. If he really wanted to contest among candidates to take the ticket, he would have remained in Kanu. Or any other party, for example, where there was potential competition.
I think
when he set up the party, obviously he set it up with the vision of running on it, and so we know the rest is just cosmetic stuff.
No, you will see our nominations being done. You will see our nominations being done, and we'll do it with the same standard that will apply from the county representative. Will apply to at the national level.
Let's pick up on David's question there, because the other perception you can't get away from is that Uhuru Kenyatta actually bought the party.
The days of parties being owned by individuals are over. How much would you sell a party for? You cannot sell people. A party is made of its people. It's not just a structure. It's not just a certificate.
No, Johnson, that's dodging the question.
No,
the thing is, the party was bought from the initial owner.
How much was it bought for?
Right? How did you acquire the party?
How much was it bought for?
I don't know. How much did you get the party for?
We did not buy. You cannot buy a party.
How did you acquire it?
How did you get it?
We joined the political party.
Right.
Yeah. Earlier this year, some joined late last year. Guineo resigned.
I don't know all the officials resigned of the party and take over the party.
There are some officials of the party who are there, who are still there. There are some officials in the branch areas who are still there. and who will present themselves for nomination at the election. So you cannot buy a party.
But there's nothing wrong with giving the owners of a party or the founders of a party something to go into retirement so that we can take over this party and go forward. Is there anything wrong with that, you think?
There is. If you're buying a party, you cannot buy a political party.
Okay, so how do you explain, as a viewer has correctly pointed out, because you've been telling us that you're 60 days old, but you tell us also that Mr. Nginyo Kariuki and the older guard of the party moved out and you took over, so you're actually completing his term.
I'm saying the refreshed, the rebranded TNA. TNA was earlier known as NAPK.
Right.
So the brand TNA, with the new colors, with the new look and feel, with the new leadership, is about 60 days old, slightly about 60 days old.
Okay.
Because we launched the party on May.
So what were the mechanisms of the takeover? Because in the public domain, this party was bought by you guys who came in, led by your party leader, Uhuru Kenyatta, because the time allowed for you to form a fresh party, have all the requirements of the Political Parties Act complied with, was not adequate before before the deadline required by the Political Parties Act.
I think
so how did you acquire the party so smoothly, get into office, all officials get out, and everything is so smooth? I mean, the public cannot believe that story, Johnson.
No, but it's the truth. I think, one, for a long time, Uhuru Kenyatta, for example, has known that he's vying for the presidency.
Yes.
It was not beyond him to set up a new party. However, we who had already joined TNA before him, because we had joined before him, he became a member when he opened the office, when he came and got a card and became a member of the party. But we who had formed it actually started espousing some values and some new flavor that he thought was actually good. So he joined the party later. You cannot buy or sell a political party.
Let's assume that.
I've explained how the takeover was.
Okay.
And interestingly, what made it more smooth is that the likes of Nginyo Kariuki and other officials actually felt that these are the right people with whom we want to move ahead with. So that's what made it smooth. But I refute the claim that you can buy a political party. It's a nice business. I'm a businessman. I think I should set up a number of parties and sell. If that is, if that's the practice.
At what stage did he join it? And at what stage did you meet him?
At what stage did he join the party?
Yeah.
I think he joined it. You know, there's joining a party formally by getting a card, but there's joining and participating in the formation of a political party. In participating in the formation, that must have been a bit earlier.
Who negotiated with Nginyo Kariuki?
I don't know. I was a member of the National Oversight Board, and I got elected as chairman.
But somebody must have gone to Nginyo to convince him to leave the party.
That is beyond me. I don't want
Sorry, you're contradicting yourself, because you told us that you're serving out the chairman's term.
After he resigned.
After he resigned. Yes. So how are you elected as chairman if you're supposed to have elections coming up?
You see what happens, for example, with the four of us. You're the host of this show.
Right.
If you resign as a host, and our laws say that we need to have between us a chairman, me, Mutegi, and Makali will elect one of us to hold that position until the end of your term. That is what happened.
So what were his reasons for resigning?
Nginyo Kariuki?
Yes.
I'm not sure what his reasons were. I think
said he wasn't bought.
I think he believed.
You have ruled out the only speculation in the public.
One of the reasons was that he believes in that generational change. He's been there for a while and he's an old man, and he's seen that these young guys have more energy than he does.
No problem. Let's assume you guys have charge of the party and you're going forward.
Yes.
The question was raised about how you are carrying out the campaign in Central and this tussle that Uhuru has been facing of people who want to be his supporters, who want to back him. All of them, you know, the BAS, the GNU, and all these people who want to support him. But he's telling them, join my party if you want to support me. Don't say we do coalitions. What is the philosophy, or the strategy of TNA, especially within Central and the Mount Kenya region?
Two things. One, we as a party, first of all, respect other political parties and their rights to exist. So we're not saying that we will steamroll them, or some comments that I'm sure you've been hearing in the media, that we'll just come and finish those other political parties. But what you're saying is this: if we have similar ideals and ideologies, which must be measured, you know, it is not a matter of saying on a platform that we believe in the same thing, but we must look at what you stand for. If we have those similar ideals and ideologies, and have expressed willingness to support a similar candidate who has shown interest in vying on our ticket, we're saying we will be stronger if we're in one vehicle. Because as you know very well, Mwai Kibaki in the last election lost 30 seats to parties that were supporting him. You know, there was PNU, there was KANU, some were running on Foda Sili, all that, and they split 30 seats. Now, with this new governance model that we have, a majority in Parliament and in the Senate is critical, and you need to have it. So I'm saying, so that we do not split, you know, those seats and lose those seats, it will be better if you are supporting the same candidate. If you are subscribing to the same ideologies, come into this party. Now, the reason why most people usually want to hide in their small parties is because they are not sure about how the nominations will be done, or that it will be free and fair. So usually they get into those parties so they can assure themselves of tickets or of seats. And what we're saying is this: we will have a free and fair nomination process. And it's a process that we've started. And once we have that, we're assuring them, come into this party. If you're popular, if the people want you to lead, no matter who you are, TNA is not going to anoint any candidates in any part of this country, least of all Central Kenya, in any part of this country. We're not going to anoint any candidates. There are no preferred candidates. Even if they're seen walking around with me or with Uhuru or whoever, they have to go through the same process.
Okay, well, if you have any questions or comments for Johnson Sakaja, the SMS number is 2442 and the Twitter handle is Cheche_TV. Still ahead, how to participate in Kenya's politics as a youth. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, the program is Cheche, live on Citizen TV and Hot 96 FM. Our guest this morning is a young man who wants more young people to engage and take responsibility for Kenya's destiny. He's done that by chairing the National Alliance. So you say that your theme, your slogan is I believe.
Yes.
So let's run through some of the things you believe. At the beginning of the program, you told us you believe that all Kenyans can have food. What's your plan for food security?
Our plan for food security is simple. We need to have an agrarian revolution in this country. We know, first of all, it's a big shame for a country like us, with more than 3/4 of it, which is potentially arable. When you have famine, a country like Egypt with less than 3% arable land donating food to us. We're saying that if you have a serious agrarian revolution, if we mechanize our agriculture, if we put irrigation so that we don't have to depend on rain in this day and age, and open new grounds, and new frontiers for agriculture, we can actually more than triple our food production, even with the Tana Delta alone. And what is happening there, it is possible. And we're saying that this is one of the ways through which we can be able to provide jobs for young people through agriculture. Because if a nation cannot feed itself, then that nation is not sovereign at all.
Your presidential candidate has been in government.
Yes.
What prevented him from doing that?
He did a lot. When he was finance minister, he put more than 16,000 new hectares of land under irrigation. If you look at his 2010-2011 budget, well, he did that. He actually reduced the cost of subsidies, or rather farm inputs, during his tenure then. And we're saying that we need to have a national plan towards mechanizing agriculture, towards that agrarian revolution. And he's already done his bit. In fact, on top of that, through the economic stimulus program, if you look at it well, he's actually...
Which is a failure.
It is not a failure. Economic stimulus program has touched so many lives. I know individuals who had nothing to do, who are now doing fish farming. I know centers of excellence in each and every constituency in this country, health centers, local markets. That cannot be a failure, unless depending on which side you're looking at it.
Wow.
Okay.
ESP is a success and is one of the successes of this government, which was introduced by Uhuru Kenyatta.
Butegi is quite cynical, but there are viewers here who are not as cynical, who say that they're very happy with your performance actually here on Cheche. I'm happy finally that there is a party that proposes a people-led agenda on a national scale. Congrats TNA, I believe.
Thank you.
This from Patrick. Brother Sakaja, I'm now convinced that TNA is the party of Kenyans. How do I join you? And there was one earlier which you could also tackle at the same time about wanting to vie on a TNA ticket. So could you address those?
Yeah, I think it's really encouraging to hear that response from Kenyans. TNA is a party for all Kenyans, regardless of tribe, regardless of age, regardless of class. And we're going out and telling everybody there's space for you. If they want to join, if he's in Nairobi, you can come to our head office. Our head office is in Eastlands. In fact, we're the only party which has a head office in Eastlands, because most parties want to be in Nakosi, leafy suburbs. It's in Eastlands, Jogoo Road, opposite City Stadium. You can come in there. If you cannot be able to access our Jogoo Road office, you can actually SMS 6551 and leave a message there, or send us an email at info@tna.co.ke. My staff at the office will be able to get back to him and tell him how he can get involved in our activities, so that we can go around the country and preach this message. Because I believe, even regardless of what Mutegi has been saying, that it's actually time for us as a country to pull out those weeds of skepticism, to push aside those stumbling blocks of disillusion, and believe in that faith that we can actually transform our country. And I think the time for transformation of our country is now. We are at the brink of greatness as a country.
You talk about going around the country, and several of our viewers say that you are focusing on the central Kenya region, and you have ignored Nyanza province.
First of all, we have not focused on central. Within the last month, we've not even gone there. We've been probably closest to central was Meru, but we're going to come to Nyanza soon. We were in Kisii the other day, which is in Nyanza, I think 2 weeks ago, Kisii and Nyamira.
When are you going to Kisumu?
We're going to go to Kisumu because we're fielding a candidate also in the elections in Viwa as TNA. So we'll be there. Our SG comes from, our Secretary General comes from Kisumu, from Kondele. We'll do a homecoming for him soon. Within the next few weeks and months. So we'll go to each part of this country, because I believe if you really want to lead this country, you cannot say that these areas are not for us, these ones are for us, we can campaign here, we cannot. And also I know Kenyans have matured politically enough to be tolerant to divergent views and to listen to us. And I know and I'm confident that once they listen to our message, once they listen to our policies and what we're trying to do, and the fact that we're daring to be different and to change these politics, they will join us and we will be victorious.
TNA, okay, your party leader, Uhuru is your party leader, right? Or what is his actual designation in the party?
He has none.
He has no political...
Our party has no party leader.
Okay, your candidate, for that matter, is a member of the G7.
Presumed.
He's also not a candidate yet, because he has not yet been nominated by the party.
He's an aspirant. Okay, let's use that word. He's
an aspirant
on a TNA ticket. He is a member of the G7 alliance. The alliance is planning, has been engaged in negotiations for, doing a coalition or fronting one candidate to face off with, the others.
Yes.
There is a prospect, therefore, that he may not run as a candidate, for presidential candidate, isn't it?
I think these are early days. He would speak for himself better. But as a chairman of TNA, I am going to present a candidate to the people for presidency.
You're sure that he's going to be on the ticket?
I cannot.
Supposing I'm backing Musalia Mudavadi, for example.
Is TNA, what is happening is this? Is TNA negotiating with other parties so that you can have a joint candidate?
They're very...
Forget about the individuals. Your party.
Our party?
Yes.
There are various instruments that have been put within the law for parties to engage, even in a pre-election coalition or post-election coalition.
Yeah.
And once that is done, it will be deposited with the Register of Political Parties.
Yes.
So none has been deposited yet.
But what are the prospects? I just asked that question, that if he decides, for example, to support somebody else, whether William Ruto or, Musalia Mudavadi,
yes,
and there have been discussions of that nature, you must admit, unless you're not in the loops, what will happen to the party?
The party exists beyond him. It is not just about an individual, because I'm going to field candidates from the county assemblies all the way to presidential. And even if they agree on that, that is his decision. If the party agrees on that institutionally, these other parties, if we see, because we've seen that the big objective for us is not power, it's not an individual being president or not being president, but it's a transformation of this country. And if that's the place where our members want to go, because our members will have to pass it at a national delegates conference, then I, who serves at the pleasure of my members, will have to comply with that.
When is the National Delegates Congress?
We've not yet set a date for that, but it will be towards the end of the year, right after we do our nominations.
There's a question from Cheche in Kikuyu who asks again, and I suppose several of our viewers missed your response to the Hague question, the fact that Uhuru Kenyatta is facing charges at the International Criminal Court.
Yes.
But he asks a second question about how you will deal with alcoholism in Kenya, particularly among the youth.
And I'd like to thank him, because those are real issues that are facing our young people. We have been supporting an initiative called Mulika Mlevi that has been doing soccer tournaments in Central Province. It's gone into Rift Valley and it's going to Western now, just to encourage these young people to stop, abusing alcohol and all that. But instead of just looking at the symptom or what the alcoholism is all about, we're saying that we need to provide jobs for these people, because the reason why these young people are engaging in this alcoholism or in drug abuse is because they have no jobs. And I'm saying we want a government that is creative enough to think of new ways of creating employment, and we can do it. If we have an industrial revolution in this country, if we say, look, we import toothpicks, I'm sure this mug here was imported. We import so much in this country, but we are placed so strategically as a country that we can be the industrial hub for this region.
But your candidate was Minister for Finance. When you were importing all that crap from China,
yes,
he was in charge. In fact, I don't understand why all those imports are coming. We are now understanding we are importing a lot of rubbish from India, from why?
We're importing a lot of junk, and I'm sure he did his best to make it stop. But you know, these things are best done when you're actually in charge of the entire government, because as Minister of Finance you can set a policy in terms.
Prime Minister.
You can set a policy in terms of the caps of what ministries spend. Ministries have on their own accord the right to source the items from wherever it is, you know,
including toothpicks.
Including toothpicks, which we import. So unless you actually have the entire government, you know, that you're running it and you're setting the policy, it is very difficult to do that, you know, from one side.
Still this question from Simon in Makueni. Owing to the ownership of huge chunks of land in Kenya by the Kenyatta family, how confident are you that Uhuru will implement the new constitution in relation to land ownership in Kenya?
That's a good question. First, I'd like to say this, because there are very many leaders who have been going around saying, vote for me, I will implement the constitution. It's not a favor. It's no one's favor to implement the constitution. It is a law. You have to implement it. And Uhuru, having campaigned for the constitution, means that he read it, means he understands the provisions on land, and if there is anything there that would actually put him at a disadvantage, he said, let us go through the process. Because there's been a lot of myths around how much land they own and how they got it. Incidentally, they were not mentioned in the Ndungu report at all. And I'm sure you've read it. They were not mentioned because they can say that they acquired it legally. But we have institutions, we have processes and systems through which all of this can be brought to light. So it is no one's favor to say that I will implement the constitution, I will follow this chapter, when I'm president I'll follow chapter 4 instead of 5. No, the constitution is there for Kenyans. And in fact, on that same very breath, there are many people who have been going around the country now saying this election is about those who supported the constitution and those who have not supported it, those who fought in the reforms and those who didn't fight about it. It's not about that, because 67% of Kenyans voted for this constitution. You cannot credit any individual. And it was supposed to be a unifying document that brings us together, not dividing us along lines of reformers or non-reformers. And in any case, the greatest reformers in this country have been the young people, because of the ones who voted overwhelmingly for this constitution. I was not old enough to participate in the clamor for multi-party democracy. I was in class 2, class 1. That doesn't make me a non-reformer. But here I am now, at 27 years old, looking forward, having a vision for this country, passionate and competent. And I'm saying that what we want now is transformation.
Young people, there's no guarantee that if young people will continue being reformers. We know about those ones who are reformers before and now when they're in government, they are completely opposite of the same.
Yes, because the reformers are not necessarily performers.
Yeah.
Just because you know how to hunt doesn't mean you also can cook that meat. We salute and we are happy for what those who were before us did in terms of changing the political landscape, the constitution, moving us from the oppressive Moi regime and all that. That is good. But we're saying that a time has come now that a new generation of leaders must take the torch of leadership.
This reform is not just polemics, Johnson. It is about track record.
Yes.
When they say reformers and non-reformers, they're talking about not young people like you who have just come on the block.
Yes.
They're talking about people who have a track record with the previous government, who opposed reform or change or benefited from it, but now are saying they will be the ones to fix the problem. That is why the debate is being framed. It's not just in generalities as we're saying. But you know, but that is neither here nor there. I think that that is a debate that Uhuru himself, when he comes on the show, please, by the way, tell him we're waiting for him and viewers want him. Yes, sure. Because the questions that are personal to him, like the question you're talking about land and so forth, that may not be a party-wide issue. So we hope that he'll come and answer those things here. But at a personal level, so you're here articulating all these issues. Are you running for any office yourself, or are you just promoting the others?
What we've said as a party, because I must first of all articulate the party position on this, is that we want the officials of this party, which is also a first, to be neutral arbiters in the process. So all our officials, and we are the first party to comply with that provision within our laws, from the polling station level to the national level, are not going to participate in this election. If you want to vie for position, you must resign 1 year to the election, and that has long gone. So in this election, no, I am not vying, but probably in future, if Kenyans feel that I can serve.
Okay, because clearly, if you say that you want more young people engaged in politics, why would you entertain Uhuru Kenyatta's presidential ambitions instead of going for the presidency yourself, or encouraging your age mates, the youth, to vie for the presidency?
What we're doing is that we're setting up the infrastructure to enable those young people, our colleagues and our peers, to be able to run. to have a fair and a level playing field for all of them. But it's not lost upon us, because you're saying, yes, you want young people to get into politics. But even these young people will need to be guided. You know, the first government that we had was full of so many young people. We had the Ngays in their 20s, we had Mboya at 27, we had Kibaki early 30s, and they did amazing stuff. But even they had their hands held by Jomo Kenyatta, who was their mzee. Right now we're saying our mzee is Uhuru, because he's 50 years, but he's our mzee. I was saying that new generation of Kenyans, that new breed of leadership, must work not only with the energy and vigor of youthfulness, but also must feed from the wisdom of the...
But Johnson, is the youth just about age, or is it about also experience and where you've been? Because if you're talking about change,
yes,
what convinces you that then Uhuru represents that change? If you see that he's belonged in 3 governments, he's been in Moi's government, or 2 governments, he's in Moi's government and he's been in Kibaki's government.
Yes.
What promise then do you see him delivering?
Now, as the chairman of the party, I'm not allowed to campaign for one of my aspirants in case another aspirant comes. But I can just say in passing that Uhuru Kenyatta has been able to show a record in every ministry he's worked in. He's been able to show a clean break from the past. He has not condoned corruption, and there is not a single scandal that you can put to his name. But he's shown freshness, he's shown innovation. Even if you look at his time in the Ministry of Finance, with all the innovation he brought in, whether it's the economic stimulus program, whether it is IFMIS, re-engineering IFMIS, which is the integrated financial management system that has cut down levels of government spending, whether it's the austerity measures he put there, whether it is financial inclusion for the informal sector and the...
We have 1 minute left to the end of the program.
One question.
Final question.
He has shown great leadership and great vision.
Let me ask you a question
question
about money. You say you're setting up a fund for the youth.
Yes.
Money is a very important factor in elections in this country.
Extremely.
If you have no money, there's no chance of you getting elected. Whether you are youth, whether you're old, whatever. Money matters.
Yes.
I can see a lot of young people who are buying in TNA who are going to be kicked out because they have no money.
Well, you know, the first thing that makes them get kicked out is a playing field that is not level. Either through people who are, put there in positions directly by direct nominations, and we're saying that we're going to change that. Once they have been nominated, we will support them financially.
We're out of time.
What else would you like us to do?
Finance them.
Right. He's already said that he's doing that. The conversation will continue beyond the studio. Our time is up, and our thanks to Johnson Sakaja for joining us, along with Mutegi Njau and David Makali, and to all of you who shared your opinions. I'm Udwaka Mimo. That's Cheche This Week.